Hello, everybody. I thought I'd make a short tutorial on how to graph using Google Sheets, which is very similar to graphing using Microsoft Excel. Not exactly the same, but pretty close to it. So I started out by entering in some data over here from a previous year's human acceleration. You'll notice that I have kind of formatted everything to 2 decimal points. I wouldn't have had to have done that. And on this one, I'm not going to use perfect significant digits. So I'll leave it as follows with everything with 2 decimal points afterwards. The other thing you'll notice is that I've got my labels up here at the top, and I included in my labels the units. I put them up at the top on purpose, not down with the numbers down below, because a program like Google Sheets actually can't handle both numbers and letters in the same box. For instance, if I was to type in 10 meters here and hit enter, you'll notice that it formats that cell to the left-hand side. And if I was to put 10 and hit enter, it formats it to the right-hand side. This 10 is a number that I can do something with, like add, subtract, multiply, or divide. The 10M, I can't. It treats that as text, and so therefore you can no longer do math with it, or graph it for that matter. So let's go ahead and get into the graphing part of this, making sure that we understand. So I'm going to select. There's a beep. We'll see if I don't get interrupted. I'm going to highlight starting over here on the time, and I'm going to highlight all the way down to position and hit insert and then come down to chart. There it is. And mine already makes some choices that I want because I've done this before. However, yours might come up differently. And so let me go ahead and indicate what good choices would be for this position versus time graph. Right now it has it selected as a scatter chart, which is a really good option here. Scatter charts mean that I can control the x-axis and I can control the y-axis to my heart's content. My x-axis is the time because I put it first on the left-hand side and I put position on the right-hand side. So it went ahead and chose the times correctly the way that I wanted to. If I didn't, I would have to go out and select my times individually, which is a little bit more complicated, but works out okay. If I click on scatter chart, it'll also come up with some other options here. I could do a line chart or an area chart. If I did a line chart, it would draw on a line, but my dots would be gone. If I wanted to put those dots back in again, I would hit customize and come to series and scroll down here to where it says point size. And I could turn my point size on to a variable that I can see. So I could make a line chart and that would be fine, or a scatter plot would be all right. But these are nice indications of what we've got. Also, I may want to go ahead and change my chart title. So I can do that here by clicking on chart and axis titles under customize. I'm on chart title already. It already says position versus time, which isn't bad. But I might add on a little bit to say position versus time of what? For human runner. Or maybe I'll put that in quotes. I don't remember if they ran or not, but position versus time for human runner allow me now to have a more accurate title for what this really is. So I've got my position time graph, and I can do the exact same things for other ones. This position time graph, I can cut and paste it and put it into a Google Doc for a lab report, or I could keep it here and turn it in directly as is. But I would do the exact same thing for another chart, where if I was to click time here and highlight down to the bottom from velocity, I could come here and say insert chart. And once again, it's going to propagate with most of the things that I've already chosen here. Notice it's a line chart already. If I came over here to setup, I could go back here and put in a scatter. So now I've got my dots for my scatter. It has time on the bottom and has velocity on the side because I've set them up this way. I'm going to put that back in as a line chart and turn on my series point size. Maybe we'll make them the same as before. So now I've got this. I can go ahead and edit my title just by clicking in the title as well. And I could call this velocity versus time for human runner. And now I've got two charts, and I could situate those one right on top of the other, or I could shrink their size. If you make them too small, things become difficult to see, but they do allow you to compare nicely. So I could take these two graphs, stack them on top of each other. And now I can look at this and say, hey, check it out. At position 0, right at the beginning, we had a velocity here of about 7.9, right? Which is 7.3, so a little off. But you'll also notice that this graph starts at 0 time, where this graph doesn't. So it might be nice to make that line up a little bit. The reason why it doesn't is that it starts out here with 0.62. I could change that a little bit by telling it how far to one side I want to go. It might be under setup, actually. Let me take a quick look. Nope. So under customize, left axis, no. Where is that? Legend, horizontal axis, maybe horizontal axis. Here's my minimum. So I'm going to put in a 0 minimum here. If I put in 0 minimum, now it lines it up here with 0 minimum, and now you can see that it's not at time 0 that the velocity is 0. It is actually slightly after that time where the velocity, because that's the slope of the one above. This graph goes all the way to, it appears 7. Once again, I could make those line up so I can work my way down so I can see exactly where things go. But it is nice to be able to connect this in. So there is position versus time, velocity versus time, and I could do the exact same thing for acceleration time. You'll notice that accelerations in this case are negative in a number of different categories. Why? Well, because our velocities have changed to go slower. And anytime we slow down, it means that our acceleration must also be negative. So hopefully that was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. All right, take care. Bye-bye.